Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome to the May Web Zurich meetup. It's fantastic to have you all here, even though I can't actually see you and talk to you in person. I still need to get the hang of this sitting in front of a camera, but I'm getting better slowly but surely. Um, I have seen in the chat already that we have a bunch of international guests as well. Hi, Bomzu, for instance. So we have people from Korea here as well. And I know that a few people are really happy that we're doing this online so that they don't have to go somewhere and actually hang out with us. I guess that's a plus. For me, that's a little bit of a minus because it's kind of nice to see you all in person, have face-to-face conversations. But this is as good as it gets in these times, so I am still very, very thrilled. The upside is that we have fantastic speakers who also usually do not really have the time or it's inconvenient for them to schedule coming to Zurich for us, and now we can conveniently visit them or have a visit from them from their home office, which is nice. Really excited to see you all here. Thank you so much for everyone who is already saying hi in the chat. I'll be having an eye on the chat throughout the talks as well. If something pops up, let us know, especially if there's video or audio problems, please let us know in the chat. For those of you who are silently watching, do try out the chat. It's a pretty cool thing to see like what's going on and ask your questions there and just like talk amongst each other. That's fine. Still do keep your eyes peeled on what our speakers have to tell you because we are having really, really cool talks for you scheduled today. Sweet. So I usually do like a kind of show of hands thing for people like who is here for the first time. You can use the chat for that to give us an idea of how many people are like chiming in for the first time and who is a regular here. Real quick for the newcomers, Web Zurich is a usually local, now global meetup in Zurich for everyone who creates things on the web. That is web developers, web designers, UX experts, accessibility professionals, marketing people, SEOs, content strategy, e-commerce folks. Everyone is welcome. It can also be like less mainstream and more obscure things like 3D on the web or I don't know, like Second Life on the web or whatever you guys are building and gals are building. So generally, if you're interested in making things on the web, or if you are making things on the web, this community is for you. We do have a website, webzürich.ch, that you can use to just like get informed about everything that has happened in the past. So we have videos from past meetups there. We have a speaker directory there. We do have the latest and upcoming meetup there as well. So if you're not sure when the next one is, that's a good place to check. You can join us in our Slack community. There's plenty of channels. Sometimes it's just random chit-chat. Some people are talking about things like web platform features. In other channels, you can find more co-workers for your team, or maybe a new challenge if you're looking for a new challenge. And another way of staying in touch with when our next meetup is and what the topics are would also be our meetup.com page too. If you are on Twitter, feel free to tweet about the meetup using the hashtag Web Zurich, hashtag Web Zurich. So that's a great way of getting in touch with us and others as well. We do have a few ground rules. We do have a few principles that we stand by. First things first, everyone's welcome as long as they play along our code of conduct. So please just generally get together, use this as an opportunity to meet new people, to talk to people that you normally don't talk to see who else is in Zurich and creates things on the web, has a like shared mindset with you, maybe learn something new from others, share what you have learned, no matter how simple or basic it looks to you. There will be others who don't know about it. And to facilitate this and have fun together and meet the people around you that do more or less the same things as you do, and also those that are doing distinctly different things but still create things on the web. We do these monthly meetups. So every month we have a meetup. We have been doing this for 4 years. And oh, the slides are gone. That's fine. I can reshare. Hold on. I am changing to Skype real quick. I hope that doesn't necessarily show up full screen or something. Give me a second. Isn't this wonderful? Do they show up again? Are they back, Alexei? Okay, cool. I guess our slides are coming back any moment now. Yeah, there they are again. Sweet. So we do these monthly meetups. We have been doing them in the past 4 years, and they're gone again. Oh, they're back again. Okay. And while we do mostly speak English to make sure that as many people can contribute and share as possible, you can totally also speak your language amongst your peers. But I recommend speaking English just because that broadens the circle of conversation that is possible. Also, this meetup lives and breathes by the community, which means if you have anything you want to share, definitely let us know. On our website, we have a little short form that you can fill in to just like, it's a 15-minute presentation. That's 5 minutes. It's relatively short, but it's long enough to get your idea across. We are a really friendly crowd. We do happily help you with making slides, as well as doing like rehearsals, or if you're not sure if the idea is interesting, just ping us. We are in the Slack channels. If you just ping us in the Slack channel, for instance, and ask like, so do you think this would be an interesting idea? We'd happily give you feedback and help you develop the idea. So that's totally fine. When we are doing in-person meetups, we are usually we are pretty much always in the Impact Hub at Viaduktstraße, so in Bogen D. Now that obviously isn't the case, but when we are resuming in-person meetups, you find us there pretty much all the time. Great offering your office for us, but we'd rather stay in our home where we are usually to be found. But yeah, so like your participation is very, very important. Without talks, we don't really have something to run the meetup on. So it can be anything. Like it can be a little project that you build. It can be something that you learned. As I said, there's always something that someone in the audience will not know. It's 15 minutes. The worst case scenario is that you're just like having a conversation with me in front of an audience for 15 minutes, but it'll be fine. Don't worry about that. We are a very, very friendly crowd. This is our team. We have Alexei, who is running the website and actually does this video stream today. Thank you so much, Alexei. Without you, the stream wouldn't happen. Then we have Daniel, who does help us with all sorts of logistics, as well as Olga. I'm doing the hosting like this. Hi, everyone. Stuart does a bunch of logistics together with Rob as well. And we are your team. And today we are pretty much complete. So if you want to ask us anything, you can do that in the chat. You can do that in Slack. We're here to help. We're happy to help. Also, if it's an in-person meetup and you have any questions about things like logistics on the ground, you can always ping us or like pop by and say like, hi, Olga, hi, Martin, how Stuart, how Rob, hi, Daniel, how Alexei, and we are happy to help you there. We do always look for a bit of sponsorship because this is not like a commercial entity or anything. We are basically like snacks and stuff. In this case, video equipment, streaming software. We are all paying out of our own pockets at this point. We have a Patreon if you want to sponsor us on a monthly basis with a little money. If you want for the in-person meetups, you can offer us drinks and snacks and whatever other ideas you have. We have our recording setup pretty much nailed down, but we are always looking for improvements and suggestions from you, basically. So that's definitely something. If you want to give back, every franc is much appreciated. Speaking of sponsors, today's sponsors are Rockstar Recruiting, Graph CMS, and Valtech. They are helping us keeping the show running, which is pretty cool. Rockstar has a few great ideas and inputs for you if you are challenged by the current situation and need help with a new opportunity to find a job, for instance. So that will come in a moment's time. We just did we have this workshop already, or are we having this is this upcoming? In the future. So we have no date yet, as you can probably tell from the fact that everything is a little in the air right now. But Vitaly Friedman from Smashing Magazine is coming back to Zurich eventually in the future to give his smart responsive interface design patterns workshop. I highly recommend that. And we'll let you know when we have a date. So do follow us on our website and maybe hang out in Slack as well, where we do post announcements, or follow us on Twitter, where we also post these announcements. And there will be more workshops definitely in the next year as well. We heard you. We asked if you were interested in workshops. You definitely are interested, and that's fantastic. So we definitely will continue bringing international talent to Zurich for workshops. If you want to join the Slack, you find the link on the Web Zürich website. And we will try something new this month because it is kind of nice to have a face-to-face conversation. So if you go to bit.ly/webzh-may 2020, after the official part of the meetup, after our last speaker has done their presentation, you can join that server and do like a video chat and hang out and meet the other people behind these usernames on YouTube. I'll also post the link again. I'll show you the link later. You don't have to like open it now. You can open it later. That's perfectly fine. Cool. With that, our next meetup will be on the 17th of June. So a little less than a month away. And we're still looking for talks. So if you have any ideas, let us know. We're happily looking into them and helping you develop them into a short talk. Definitely try it out. It's now more frictionless than ever because you don't actually have to stand in front of a crowd. It's a nice crowd, but it's even easier to just talk to your webcam, I think. So yeah, with that, thank you very much. And now we will hand over to our sponsors, Rockstar, for a moment, and then Christian Schepp will give the first talk of the day.
Hello to everyone at Web Zürich. You're probably wondering what happened to Clara. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it today. However, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Kieran, the newest member of the Rockstar team, and what I will be doing today in this short video is introing you some of our hottest jobs of the week. So what I will do is swap over to a slide so you can read for yourself. You'll continue to hear me in the background. And once this meetup is finished, I will be available for questions regarding the positions directly. Equally, if you know anyone that might be interested, we're always welcome to referrals of friends, former colleagues, etc. So yeah, hope you enjoy the positions that we have. Thank you for your time and a pleasure to meet all of you. Cheers. So, on to the hot jobs. The first one is a senior software engineering role that is remote permanently and is for a Swiss and US based open source company. They have large named investors from Google and Cisco. Technically, the focus lies with Go and Kubernetes, extra points for open source contributions and cloud native experiences. Then we have two mobile developer roles that are quite different from each other. The first is for a company focused on access and security solutions. You'll be working with Objective-C, Swift, Java, and some Kotlin. This is a German-speaking position. The second is focused around the improvement and maintenance of a company's existing hybrid apps. So big focused on React Native, no German required, full English-speaking working environment. Then we have two junior full stack roles that are quite exciting. One is for a Swiss telecoms provider with a JavaScript focus and no German there required despite being a Swiss company. And then a C#, .NET and JavaScript position for an IT startup. German is required for this role. Now, as mentioned, I'm available for questions and answers on the Slack channel after. Alternatively, you can write to us on LinkedIn, etc. In general, I'd like to thank you again for your time and really looking forward to getting to know some of you, hopefully most of you, over the coming weeks, months, etc. So thanks again, take care, keep safe, and goodbye from Rockstar.
Coming back to you, Martin. Okay, Martin, you're here, live. So we have some comments.
Death by too many windows. I'm very sorry. Okay. The usual thing. Cool. Yes. So I hope that you all are safe and sound at home. And if you are now looking for a new challenge, I guess you have seen that there are a few roles available and that you have possibilities to do that. And now I am really, really happy and honored to have a friend of mine and a co-speaker, a fellow speaker, and organizer of many community events and conferences around Europe, at least. I was about to say worldwide, but potential to growth maybe. Schepp is a fantastic and very smart developer that I met, I don't know how many years ago. We have met multiple times, countless times, in various constellations as attendees, as speakers, as organizers, talked about many different things. And I'm really looking forward to learn things that I didn't know about images on the web, because images is such an important topic. It's such a bold visual cue on pretty much every website that there is. And there are so many things to do right and so many things that can go wrong. And I'm really, really looking forward to this talk. So please give it away and give a round of applause in the chat maybe to Schepp.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in Zurich, even if it's just virtual. So I'm Schepp. I'm a freelance web developer, front-end developer from Düsseldorf, Germany. And today I want to tell you a few things about images, things you didn't know so far, maybe, hopefully. And I'll cover all sorts of areas, markup, CSS, JavaScript, and even formats. And let's go.
So the quality is great.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay, so the first thing you might not know is that there's another tag that you can also use for images, and this tag is, or this element is the image element, which is pretty weird. So basically, it's an alias to the normal image element, and it works the same way as the one that is just abbreviated. Why does it exist? Nobody knows really. So it's just there. Some people think it's at the beginning of HTML, somebody implemented it, and then people had to make sure that future browsers are always compatible to it. But MDN advises you not to use it. But what is it good for? So one thing that it was good for was the time when modern browsers supporting old IEs were still not supporting SVG. Somebody got the nice idea to create a fallback mechanism with the image element. And you can see it here in action. So what it does is, since SVG officially supports the image element, and the image element is a valid element in SVG, you could use it inside an SVG, and you would point to another SVG inside that like container SVG, and the browsers that would understand SVG and therefore the image element would show an SVG graphic. The old browsers that didn't know what SVG meant were just ignoring SVG, and they were evaluating the image element, but then looking at the source attribute, and there you had a PNG fallback for them to show, and it worked perfectly. But so nowadays, this is totally useless unless you want to bypass HTML filters, maybe. But I'm sure you don't want to do that because it's against the code of conduct. Okay, up to the next thing. Second, this is about the alt tag. Oh, sorry, alt attribute, of course. So the as you all know, if you use images on the web, you always need to use an alt attribute. Attribute can be just decorative element. It needs to be set. And we can interact with the data. So here's our file. We do have an image with an alt attribute, and the document is valid. If we remove the alt attribute and we revalidate, then we see it's not valid anymore. And if we put in an empty alt attribute, it's valid again. Fine. But maybe you didn't know that you can also use a title attribute, and that works as well. So here you have an image element which doesn't have an alt attribute, but has a title attribute, and that's valid as well. It doesn't mean that it's a good idea to do it that way, but it's at least valid HTML. What also works is using a fig caption. So here you can see that we have a figure element with the image with no alt attribute and the fig caption describing what's displayed in the figure, and that's valid as well. And then there's I think the longest attribute ever to be invented in HTML, and that's generator unable to provide required alt. And this attribute is meant to be used when images are inserted by machines and they just cannot set the alt attribute. Then they can like mark these images as machine generated, and yeah, that's basically the use case for that. So the interesting question is, does the validator know about it? And the validator doesn't know about it, so it will throw an error. You can find the link to the spec with the attribute over here. After 13. Loading images or loading images usually and afterwards you assign the image a source, and that source gets loaded, and then this whole mechanism gets triggered. And once you append an image to the DOM, what happens is that it needs to be decoded first. So the whole browser needs to stop for a certain amount of time, which is maybe just a few milliseconds, but for a bigger image, it can be longer time. And then the image gets decoded and finally rendered, and then the browser can proceed with what the browser does. But what many people do not know is that there's a new method, a promise-based method, which is decode. So you can create a new image, assign a source, and then you run the decode method, after which, once the decode is done, you append it to the DOM. And the advantage is that the decode happens on a separate thread and will not impact your main thread. And only after that, the image will appear in the main thread by being appended to the DOM. One other nice trick with the decode method is that you can also use it to feature detect support for image formats. So as usual with promise-based APIs, you do have a then and a catch. And let's say, for example, you want to check if the browser can decode a WebP image. If it's resolving the promise, then it's able to decode the image. If it rejects, then you know, okay, I need to revert to a JPEG, for example. So the fourth chapter is about pseudo elements. So you probably know that images are replaced elements, and as such, you cannot use pseudo elements or you cannot generate content within replaced elements. As you can see here, I tried to create an after pseudo element within that image which is just a rectangle or square in red, and it doesn't show up here because it's just not possible. But what happens if the image cannot be loaded? Suddenly, you can use pseudo elements, and they appear inside, and you can use this to style images which are broken in a nicer way than the way they are usually styled. And if the image loads, then everything is back to normal. I use this technique, for example, for native image lazy loading, because I've seen that at the beginning of such a loading progress, the image shows this broken image thing. So it looks like this, and that makes this moment nicer to look at. 5. Custom properties. They're nice, but they are also a little bit dumb, because what looks like a number is really just a string, basically. Sometimes we can use it or convert it into a number-like context. But in the end, it's just a number. So we cannot animate that property because the browser doesn't know that it could interpolate between, for example, 0 and 1. Luckily, there's the CSS properties and values API that is coming in under the umbrella of the Houdini API. And that allows us to register a custom property via JavaScript as a certain type. In this case, we are registering this multiply custom property as a number. And what the browser is now enabled to animate that number because it knows that it's a number and how to work with it. So we can create a keyframe animation where we animate from 0 to 1. And then we can use this custom property to animate, for example, a background image in form of a conic gradient, and that way creating, for example, pie charts. What we can also do is we can create CSS-only image slideshows by also using the forgotten WebKit crossfade CSS function, which fades between two image sources in an amount in percentages. And soon this will also be possible to declare in pure CSS. And finally, 6 is about animated image formats. As we all know, if we want an animation to show up, animated GIFs have us covered. But they're also a little bit shitty. So they have only a limited color support. They only offer 1-bit transparency support, which means they can just mark certain pixels as transparent or not transparent, but not like half transparent. And they have huge file sizes. How about animated PNGs? So PNGs can also be animated, and then they are called a PNG, and they are supported in every modern browser. They offer 24 bits of colors, so basically the full color spectrum. They also offer 8-bit transparency, meaning like soft transparency. Problem is they are even bigger than GIFs, so that's a big drawback. but at least now you know they exist and maybe you can use them on a local project. Then there's Motion JPEG, which is a super old video format. And basically what it does is it's a sequence of JPEG images which are being streamed from a server with like little markers in between that tell the browser that the current frame has finished and the next frame is about to start. They are supported in every browser as well. They offer full color depth. They don't have any transparency, so you need to work with CSS blend modes if you want to like put them in transparent over other things. They have okay-ish file sizes, a little smaller than GIF, but at least with more colors. The drawback is that they always need to be streamed as multi-part JPEG sequence from a server. So that's not just putting a file on the server and then it's fine. You need some like mechanic on top of it. But WebP can be animated as well. And WebP is soon to be supported in almost every browser. I think I should be updating this slide because with the new Edge browser, it's supported in every browser, in every modern browser. It offers full colors, nice transparency, and okay-ish file sizes. And sadly, it's oh wait, that's a problem. I guess it's not supported in Safari. Okay. Sharing gone. Okay, sorry. Very sorry. Okay, so that's animated WebP, better than the ones before. So we have a winner probably, which is, oh wait, we've forgotten about videos. Because there's H.264 videos in image elements, which you can use in Safari. You have full color depth support, no transparency, sadly, but you would have in WebM video. You have very small file sizes, which is nice. One problem is that being able to use a video in an image element is currently only supported in Safari. But then there's one more image format, which is AV1, which is the most recent video format. And the big advantage of AV1 over H.264 is that it's the next generation video format. It's backed by all of the browser vendors. It's royalty-free in contrast to H.264. Since it's newer, it has a better image compression. I don't know about transparency. I haven't really seen anything about that. Could be, maybe not. Currently, Chrome and Firefox already have it implemented. Safari not yet. But there's a polyfill for Safari. And here are all the different moving image file formats in comparison. We can see how much of an advantage the video formats are. Bringing all of this together, if you want to cover all the browsers with animate with the best possible animated format, then you can use this picture element, and every browser will get the best possible quality. And that's it. Thank you for joining us. The slides are already at this URL. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm the Schepp. I tweet in English. We have a new online CSS meetup, which happens on Thursday. If you want to join there, it's CSS Cafe. And finally, for all the German-speaking attendees, I also run a weekly podcast with a few friends, which is the Work Podcast. Thanks a lot, and I'm handing over to the others.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Schepp. That was amazing. Didn't expect to see motion JPEG. That was a big surprise.
Your camera is off.
My camera is off, indeed. Yes, let me actually turn that back on. Hi. So thank you so much for the talk. That was awesome. Yeah, motion JPEG blew my mind. That I didn't see that coming. That was pretty cool. And also, actually, the Working Graph podcast. If you are a German speaker, I highly recommend that one. It's really cool. It's way cool. Awesome. So yes, that was. I'm still like motion JPEG. I did see a lot of these things coming, and I'm like, yeah, he has to talk about this one. But the motion JPEG just completely threw me off my shit. But while we were at the images, and you said like the alt attribute is super important for accessibility and standard compliance, there's also like SEO aspects in that. We keep telling people, like, if you put websites with images up, give these images an alt attribute. And before I say more about that kind of topic, I am super excited to have a serial Web Zürich speaker with us today as well. I think, how many talks did you already do at Web Zürich? 2 or 3? Is this the third, Gianluca?
No. Just one.
Oh, because it feels like, okay. Interesting.
Because I feel like home. I feel like home there.
Great to hear that. So a fellow developer from Zurich, Gianluca, is doing really cool stuff. And when I saw his proposal, I'm like, we should definitely get that in, because I see too much diff soup out there. So please give it away again for our next speaker, which is Gianluca Guarini, and he will be talking about meaningful HTML5 design. So Gianluca, stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. My presentation today is all about HTML5. I know that there are many interesting stuff about JavaScript, fancy APIs, and so on. Most of us are focused on those topics, but the more I work in this field, the more I realize that we are missing basically the... Do you see my slides?
Yeah.
Sorry. Wait a second. That should work. Do you see my slides? Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. So, my presentation today is about HTML5, and as I said before, we are focused on fancy JavaScript APIs and so on, but the more I work in this field, the more I realize that we are missing the building blocks of our application. So let's see how HTML5 works and how we can provide some semantic to our websites. A little bit about me. I'm a lead software developer at Tripol. I work since 10 years in this field. I've worked for other companies. I'm the main maintainer of Riot.js, and I've met Michel Hunziker. This is my highlight in my life at the moment. But I'm sure I will have others. I hope so. So let's go forward. So what we are going to learn today, so we're going to learn what does semantic mean, what's HTML, what's the content flow, what's a page outline, and how we can use the HTML5 microdata to enhance the semantic of our applications. So what we're going to skip today is stuff about accessibility, even if they are really important. They are out of topic for today. New HTML5 tags and the semantic of each single HTML5 tag, because we don't have enough time for it. Let's start about semantic. So when I'm talking about semantic, when we talk about semantic, we are talking about the meaning of what we are discussing. So the semantic focuses it's focusing the relationship between signifiers. So it's the meaning behind words, behind a graphic design, behind our HTML. So what's really important to understand is that semantics it's not about the rules. So in our case, if you build an HTML website that is perfectly valid with HTML and it has the best performance on Lighthouse and so on, it doesn't mean that the semantic of your HTML has a meaning or has the meaning you would like to give to that. So semantic, it's really a complex topic because the semantic is based on the context. So for example, let's take a sentence. John saw the man on the mountain with a telescope. So if you read this sentence, you probably could read it twice, check. This sentence could have a different meaning depending on the context in which it will be used. So who is on the mountain? John, the man, or both? Who has the telescope? And in the same way, we're gonna use semantic or also in HTML to give a more meaningful meaning to our web applications. So back to the tech stuff. So HTML, it was found. It was thought to describe how our web pages semantically should behave. What's the meaning behind those web pages? And originally, it had also cues about the appearance of the document. But today it's 2020, so you shouldn't use HTML to style your stuff, but you should use, of course, CSS. But it's really important to understand that the next step is with HTML5, the W3C and another group that I call WG, they enhanced the meaning of our HTML5 tags to provide even more meaning to our web applications. Now, at this point, probably if we were live, I would ask who knows the difference between article and a section, but unfortunately, let's check. Does anyone know that in the chat? Nope. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. Here we go. So the difference between an article and a section, just for you, just today, it's that an article should contain a standalone content of your application that could be used anywhere else. So for instance, if you are running a product, an e-commerce, and you have a product that, let's say, like you are Migros and you want to sell your stuff, and your fridge probably could scrape HTML and find out that you are missing, for example, cheese. And providing article tags allows older technologies like a fridge to understand that your web application has a product wrapped in an article tag, and it could, in theory, just order that product for you. And the section, on the other hand, it's just a section of your web application that could contain, in theory, different articles. It's quite a different, complex topic, but once you get used to it and once we go forward, you will better understand. So HTML5 introduces sectioning tags that allows us to define better the meaning of our application. So through the sectioning tags and through the headings, we could define the semantic of a web application that it's called, in our case, content flow. Who has heard about content flow before? Let's do another check. Is anyone here? Nope. But let's go forward. So the content flow, it's the semantic of a web application, and we could measure it via page outline. We will see all the stuff in a second. So let's check, for example, some examples. I took two websites that have completely a different content flow, completely. I mean, that one website uses more a flat outline and another one that uses a nested outline. I'm using tool to check that. So, for example, this website has quite a flat outline, so the contents are located almost on the root of the web application, and that's totally okay if that's your intention to communicate that kind of meaning. But Apple, that has, for example, a better nested structure using thanks to the use of HTML5, provides more deep meaning to the contents of its website. So nothing of nor of those approach is bad or good, but you need to know that those things exist, and no matter if search engines are using different algos to parse or markup, we need to stick to the plan, we need to stick to the specs, and that the only thing that we have to provide semantic to our HTML is through the content flow and the outline. Let's check some examples so to see whether we could simulate that. So that would be really cool if we were live, but unfortunately we are not live. So let's take a straightforward example. So a heading and then H2. How does the outline of this web application look like? So in this case, we have just a main title and of course a nested H2. This is pretty simple, works for HTML4 and so on. But if we invert that, if we set an H2 and then H1, the outline algorithm in HTML5 places both headings on the same position. Now it doesn't matter if Google crawls those content and understands them differently, but we need to stick to specs, to the HTML5 specs, and specs tell us that if there is a heading with a higher order hierarchy, it resets the outline. So if we check, for example, something with the main tag, that is also a new tag, we need to remember that the main tag is not a sectioning content like article or like section. So in this case, as you see, the nested title, it's just on the same level like the H1 here, because it's not nested in a sectioning tags. I know those topics, if you have never heard about that, could be confusing, but it's totally worth to understand them. So the more you are going to use them, the more you will get used to them. So if, for instance, we use, for example, an article for that, we need to remember that article, it's a sectioning tag. So in this case, it affects the outline of this markup. So we have a heading, main title, but this H2, according to the specs, has the same, it's placed on the same level like the H1 nested in this article, that, as we learned before, this is a standalone part of our application that in theory our fridge could parse and buy products with it. And if we get fancy, for example, here we have an H6, an H1 and a section. This is really fancy because, as you see, regardless the rendering of this markup, the H6 will be the main title of this application. Then we're going to have an important title that is also on the same level, but in the section, the H1 here has a lower level than the H6. So this is basically how the HTML5 outline works. I invite you to experiment with it, but it's really interesting once you get used to that. A few years ago, Jeffrey Zeldman was talking about another pandemic. It's not that one, but it was called diabetes. So it's the problem that we start using too many divs in our applications without really caring about the output of or the semantic of our pages. So we need to try to find the right balance between consistency, so writing divs and design, using them for styling purposes. But we need to also get used to analyze the outline of our web applications thanks to the use of HTML5. This is just an example you see here, but you can get wild with it. Unfortunately, all we saw before are just topics about don't provide really a lot of all the range of possibilities of meanings that we could include in our web applications. So for that, the HTML5 specs introduced microdata. So microdata are properties that we could add to our HTML. There are several specs for it, but allows us to extend the meaning of our markup, and we will see it in a while. They are maintained on schema.org. I know that Google makes a huge use of it. We will see it in an example afterwards. So, but what's really important that the search engines today, they are already using to index our web pages. So for example, if we see those results on the left, they are all using microdata. For example, if we check the casino theater example, in that application, I have used microdata to list all the events, and Google could scrape the stuff from the HTML and index the events and understand when they will be, when they will start and what's the event detail. The same goes for products. You can add microdata to enhance the reviews of a product or anything. Without microdata, no luck. You just have flat results on Google. So how do they work? In the spec I've used for this example, we use the attributes, adding microdata. In this case, for example, as you see, the render markup, it doesn't show a lot of meaning. It's just a p tag. But adding microdata to it just allows us to describe the content that is listed in this p tag. So of course, you can check your markup using a Google tool for it. But that's really the meaning we are communicating with our markup using microdata. The same goes for, I mean, you shouldn't do that, but you can also cheat. So for example, here I have a text, ciao mama, but I could add also microdata that are hidden to the rendering, but that could be provided to the search engines. Of course, you shouldn't do that, and if that could cause penalizations if you will be detected. But it's really important to understand the difference between rendering stuff and providing meaning to them. I really wanted to add this slide. That's my mom with one of my guitars. So and that's the meaning of the previous markup with microdata. But let's see how we could use, because it's pretty an abstract thing. But if we go on Google, we have a huge list of examples that could provide us better hints about or could guide let's check, for example, the breadcrumbs example. We we're not using divs for them, but there are specs for them. And if you see how they will, let's see. So this, Google is using them to display sub pages using breadcrumbs. So it's really important that you use those stuff, because search engines are using them already today. I mean, since a couple of years. All right, so those are the links of my presentation. So the stuff I've used, the outliner, I've used a couple of browser extensions for it. And yeah, I've been Gianluca Guarini. I work for Dripol. We are looking for web developers right now. So if you're interested and if you want to work with me, just apply to our jobs. Thank you. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. All right.
Awesome. Well, I was about to ask you for the tool, but you showed it during the presentation and afterwards. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think it is super important that more people see this, because as far as I can tell, especially a bunch of tutorials that are used by beginners are now more or less a div soup. So it was really, really good to see we have better options, we have more semantic options, and
Sure.
and yeah, oh, okay, all right. So that was really, really good. Also, the fact that you said like giving more semantic information either through JSON-LD or RDF or microdata is helpful, as search engines and bots then better understand your content. So that was a really cool all-around look and lay of the land, and I hope that a bunch of people here are now paying a little more attention to their markup. That would be fun. As has been discussed in the chat, the outline algorithm is a spec, but not necessarily implemented in all browsers yet, but I hope that we get that at some point soon. Sweet. Thank you so much, Gianluca. I hope that we see each other again in person soon, now that we are
Awesome.
in lockdown. But it was fantastic having you again. And yeah, I think the chat shows that there was a lot of interest in the community, and this was really, really cool. Sweet. Thank you. Now, 2 talks in, but we have one more jewel to come. Next up is Stefan Bruggmann, who is running a, or who has created or co-created a headless CMS, and he will show us how Neos Headless CMS can be used with Nuxt.js. So if you are interested in Vue.js and want to do like server-side view and use that higher level framework like Next.js for React, that's Nuxt.js for Vue. So definitely interesting. And yeah, I think it's always cool to have more options. And if you're interested in finding out how you could build a website with a headless CMS, now is the right time to like sharpen your pencils, take notes, and Stefan, take it away, please. And also,
thank you, Martin.
A lot of applause in the chat, please.
Right. So, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, nice. I'm here to show our solution for a headless CMS with the base of Neos and as frontend Nuxt. I'm Stefan. I'm Managing Director Development at Jungformat Tech. And some of you maybe know me already as one of the guys of WebXS. So we work since a long time with Neos, and we are totally in love with Neos. It's known for its in-place editing, and it's also known for the application frameworks. It's really powerful, and I don't want to change to another system because for me it's just awesome. And then we needed some other thing, and we fell in love with Nuxt.js too. So what now? We have Neos and Nuxt, and of course we created a headless CMS with Neos, and now we created a product as a service for the CMS and Node.js hosting to combine the power of Neos for the content management system and Nuxt as frontend. Our main goals were we needed a solid CMS base. We wanted to have an editor-friendly system, and it had to be extensible. And the front end, we needed a rapid front-end development. So we wanted to create sites really fast, and we needed a rich feature set. And there are 2 main roles. The editor is creating structured content in the CMS, of course, and the front-end developer is making it beautiful. So the complete control over the content structure is by the editor. And this is how it looks like. This is Neos with a normal page tree, so no lists or something like that. It's just page trees with pages and which have URLs. We have in the middle a content section where it just creates some content elements, and on the right, settings which are based on what I have selected right now. And initially, we started with a lot of content types, and we limited it with each version. Now we are here. We just have single line, plain text, rich text, image, and collection as base node types. And this is enough to create the whole website. I show it later. And on the other side, we created an open source Kickstart implementation of Nuxt, where you just can clone the repository and you're immediately connected to the demo site and can start scratching your new project. This is really fast and cool. And then you need custom components, of course. Let's say we create a new headline. We just take the single line text node type with just some content, and then it's rendered without styling, without structure. In the backend, we can name the node type as component h1. Then we have in Nuxt just these changes. We create a file named h1, create our markup, add some predefined props, and load the dynamic component to view. This is all we need to create the new custom component. It's immediately up and running. Of course, there's GraphQL involved between back and front end, and it's just a bit of schema. It's not that much, but the lucky side is you don't have to touch GraphQL at this. You can, of course, if you have special needs, but if you have just pages and content in these pages, you don't need to touch this GraphQL stuff. So now we have a quick and easy project kickstart. So we just clone a project and we are ready to go to develop and maybe to keep what we built. We have a flexible content creation. The editor is fully charged to create his own structure. So the front end has to be ready to take components as they are. So the editor is creating a component and the front end is just rendering the component where the editor told it has to be. And of course, we have multiple publish options. It's GraphQL, it's an open endpoint, and you can add this to other systems and solutions. And we have a full-featured application framework behind the CMS. So if we need something more, we can do everything. So let's switch to a live demo somewhere. So on the left side, we have the backend. On the right side is our front end. We have the node tree, of course, and the settings. Let's hide this one. We can just edit some stuff, make it bold, add maybe a new rich text element. So, and publish it. We reload. And there is our changes. It's that simple. We can even create more complex stuff. So let's assume we create a two-column content. It's just a special two-column content. This is nothing else than a collection. So I create my two-column. This is now a new node type. We say it's two-column. That's just for the backend, and we insert other content elements. So we insert one column, and of course a second one. Not here. And now we are ready to insert content. Left column, maybe an image. And crop it. Okay. Now if we publish, of course, nothing happens. We didn't create our my two column content element right now. So, but it doesn't break the front end. What you have to do is you create the file, my two column content, add the plugin, and we are ready to go. But this is not really editor friendly right now. You can't give this to an editor to say you have to do this all the time again and again. So we cut this because we have templates. We can create the node template. There are already some. Insert. We can give a description for the editor. This is a special two column. Publish it, and now we have an additional option. We can select component name, my new two column content, and it's here right away. And this is really powerful because you can scratch your system extremely fast as front-end dev, and it's handy for the editors too. And this worked out really well for us. So and that's our real love between Neos and Nuxt. And maybe you heard already, there's a new kid on the block, and it's called Deno. This is the node. The node inventor has created a new runtime, and just for fun and because it's cool, we created a second Kickstart project. It's still experimental, but you can run the backend already with Deno, and this is really simple. This is the local project. Just run the server. And we have our site here. This is local, but we already created some components which are here right out of the box. Not all components, yes, but it works really well. So it's fun to play with. And yes, it even works if you just add the project, the GitHub URL. It downloads the current version, and it's up and running too. So just the same project. So this was extremely short, just an overview. Just have a look at Web Headless or at GitHub repos, and please have a look at Neos.io. It's a really amazing open source project with a nice team behind it. And yes, that's me. If you have questions or inputs, please contact me over Twitter or maybe per mail if you're using mail. And yes, we are hiring. We are searching for one project manager and one front-end dev. So if you're interested, have a look at jvm.ch. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Stefan. That was cool. I always love to see how easy it is these days to just like plug and play services and bits and pieces together, and how pretty much everything is open source. And I never noticed that Dino is not just node like syllable swap, but actually like a lexical sort of node. That's pretty cool. I didn't quite register that. That's fantastic. And also a hat tip to like building an open source CMS, because I know that CMSs are a bunch of complexity to handle. So making this intuitive is really, really cool. Awesome. So thank you so much. And also, yes, hi everyone. I will show you the link. So that's it for today's official program, so to speak. I will share the link for both.
Okay, we cannot hear you, Martin. Martin is gone.
Greece.
Yeah, Martin, we lost Martin, but I think I will find the links. So give me one moment. So first of all, thanks for coming. This was really great talks, and I was really impressed by
Was
each of
Skype
them.
crash? Sorry.
So okay, you are back.
Yes,
So,
sorry.
Strange.
Skype crashed entirely.
Not a problem. So you wanted to share some links. We have some
Yes.
secret.
We have the official
links.
after party kind of situation, and you can either join us in Slack. We are always in Slack, kinda. But if you want to join a video chat kind of after party where we just can say like hi, maybe have a I'm not sure. I should probably not have like you have some sort of drink depending on what you feel like. My drink will be water, carbonated water, actually very hard rock of me. So if you want to hang out with us and chat a little bit, you can do that. You don't have to enable video. You can just use audio, or you can just lurk if you want to. But if you want to hang out, because once we are stopping the stream, the chat on the side will go away. So I highly recommend you go to bit.ly/webzh/May 2020 to join a Jitsi instance where we can continue the conversation for a bit if you want to. No obligations whatsoever. Awesome.
We will also tweet. We'll also tweet the link and we'll post them here in the chat. So join us and we will have fun in this after party. Exactly. And over to you, Martin.
Yes, and remember, we have the next meetup on the 17th of June. We will post those very soon. If you have anything to share that you want to share with us, now it's easier than ever because you can do it from home. So just ping us, let us know, or even better, go to webzürich.ch and use the submit a talk button to submit a talk. Cool. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks so much for all our speakers to be here and share their knowledge with us. And hope to see you in a month or in a moment.
Okay. Thank you very much and bye. See you next time.
Bye.